Hello, I'm Michael Redmond, professional 9-dan Go player. In this video, I'm going to show you a recent game I played against Kobayashi Satoru 9-dan professional. The board position you're looking at right now, it's Black's turn, and this is where I played a move towards the upper left corner. And so those of you who would like to try to sort of outguess me or think about this board position yourself, you can stop the video or maybe take a screenshot or something and think about it, because the move I played, although it was not outstandingly unusual, it was the decisive move that won the game for me. So it was, in that way, it was a very special move. First, I'd like to say I've got a new mic. A lot of people were writing to me and suggesting I get a new mic. I had some issues with background noise. So I'm hoping that it's better now. And so thank you all for making the suggestions. Some people donated money even for the purpose of getting this mic. So thank you very much. And I have acted on it. So I hope everyone is hearing the difference. My opponent, Kobayashi Satoru, I suppose his most notable tournament win was the Kisei, in which he defeated Cho-kun, who was like the strongest player in the world, maybe at that point. And he also won the Gosei tournament, which is also what we call a big title. And a lot of lightning tournaments. So like the NHK Cup, IBM NEC Cup. This game is actually the Joseki Cup. He's won that tournament also. A number of tournaments he's won, and so I'm probably missing some. Very notable player. Right now he's the president of the Nihon Kin, so he's trying to guide the association in probably a rather difficult time. And he's also continuing to play as a tournament professional. So I have the black stones. Let's get back to the beginning position. Those of you who want to take a screenshot or something, this is your last chance. And we'll go back to the beginning of the game. So I'm playing with black. I haven't actually played this opening very much. I have a tendency to play the other 3-4 point at Q3. And here. So if white answers this, I'm probably going to play some kind of a shimari. Although an extension on the left side would have been okay also. I think my plan was to play a shimari. And white pincered here. So this is a move I play a lot as white. So I actually had some experience from my opponent's point of view in this opening. And there's a game I played against Suzuki Ayumi, which I actually made a video of before I changed mics. And actually I did some work with the system also. You might hear a difference there if you compare the two videos, but I'll probably find a place to put the link for my game with Suzuki Ayumi. And I actually used the move that she played, although it was a slightly different board position. So this move here is making miai of the upper left corner. So if white plays something away, I'm probably going to play once a kakari here, which would give black a position on the left side. So the problem here that I'm trying to solve is that if I play on this side, I'm expecting that white's going to play some kind of a pincer. So maybe somewhere around here. And then I would be left with a group that I might have trouble dealing with the group in the lower left. So when I play here, and if white plays away, then I will be able to solve that by playing the extension. So naturally white plays a shimari. So that when white plays that one, I have an alternative move that I can play in the local position. So I push twice and I play here. So this dominates the local fight. At this point, it's sort of difficult for white to try to escape immediately because I've surrounded white. That said, I could have pushed again. This was the move that Kadago seemed to want me to play. And play a shimari. So I didn't really like this because I knew that white would move out on the left side, and I wasn't confident in this fight. So it would be something like this, where white would cut me off, maybe, and black would have two weak groups. And it would be a pretty wild fight. At this point, white would probably play something towards the left side, for instance, like this, and the fight would continue. So it would be playable, but it wasn't the game I wanted to play in this case. So at that time, and on that day, I didn't feel like that, I suppose. So I played here, and this is the move that Suzuki Ayumi played against me. And so I wanted to try it out for that reason also, because I had felt that she'd been very successful in the opening. Okay, so white kicks here. When white kicks here, it's probably a bit too slow for black to extend down, which would be probably the normal shape, but white would get sente to play here. And if we play this normal Joseki, then white 8 would defend the lower side as well as making trouble for me on the left side. When white gets a stone at 8, there's a lot of bad aji here, for instance with this move or the jump. So one of these two moves would create a lot of bad aji with potential races to capture. I could show you one variation, like if white plays here and here and here. It's going to be relatively difficult for me to handle that. And so this could be a dangerous variation. So I played here. Karabo seemed to like that. So I played here to take sente, and then I played here. So with this move, I'm trying to dominate the center and keep things relatively simple. My alternative was to play a corner enclosure. Corner enclosures are always big. I didn't like the idea of white curling around here. So the reason I don't like that is because my position on the left is not very stable. And so yeah, so this is a sequence I worked out with the computer. I very much doubt that I would have played this way, but this is the way that black is supposed to handle it. And when white does move out, if black just simply pushes here, this is going to be very dangerous with white breaking out and black's wall in the lower left potentially isolated. So the suggested variation was this. So I very much doubt that I would be able to play this without a computer helping me. And so, yeah, it wasn't going to happen. But this, just for what it's worth, this is what the computer thinks I should have done. And I was aware of the fact that this corner enclosure here was a big move, of course, but I just didn't like the idea of my shape on the left being so unstable after white curls around here. And it's an important shape move, which would change the whole scene on the right half of the board and in the center. So I didn't like that. And I think it's important to play with moves that you're comfortable with. And the difference is subtle enough for a human, of course, that it's, I don't think it makes it's a big, I wouldn't call it a mistake, that is. So white plays here. And white gets in trouble with the computer also, and white doesn't dive into the 3-3 point. But that's, again, I don't think that's something that I would worry about. So we play this Joseki, and I played here. So this, similar to my move at J6, I'm talking about the knight's move here, this was slightly tight. So it was a kind of a cautious move where I could have played here and being a bit more adventurous. The right side is wide open. So for instance, this would, yes, this is a variation where I would play at 7 and this would happen and white would still have room. So the problem is that unless you put a stone somewhere on the 4th line, it's not going to be a territory, but quite often a neural network system will not seem to care about that. So I was seeing a variation something like this, and apparently black doesn't care about the fact that the right side has disappeared. And this is close to even, apparently good for black. But again, it's not a variation that I would feel comfortable with. So I wasn't going to do it that way. I played a relatively, oh, sorry about that. Okay, let's get back to the game. I played here, the mark move at Q10, relatively tight move. And then I pressed here. So you can see black is trying to shape in the center, a moyo in the center. On the top side, jumping out like this for white would be responded, I would respond with an invasion somewhere around here, E18, or maybe D18, somewhere around there. And so these 2 points are pretty much miai. So if white plays in the top left, I'll play at O15. So yes, so if white plays something like, for instance, like this, then I would play the hane here. So white has a choice here in which white can reduce my center or go for the territory, and it's about equal. equal in value. So for the time being, he played here. And with this exchange, he's going to consolidate my territory as well. So my territory is going to be more solid than it was before when I answer like this. And white gets a kind of a little wall there, which will protect his territory in the corner. So when he plays the knight's move here, you might know that usually when white has a knight's corner enclosure from the star point, we used to say that the next move should be a kosumi or a narabi. So it should be a relatively tight move to get rid of the bad aji in the through 3-point. But what white did here is he got an extra stone here, and also the stones here are significant. And they're protecting the knight's shape there to a certain degree. So his idea is now the upper left corner is probably white's territory. And I was thinking about the move, the decisive move that I talked about in the beginning. I was thinking about that move from this point on. But the value of that move will change depending on the stage of the game. So the timing of it was also very important. Okay, so I played the hane here. So like I said, if white plays the move in the upper left to make the territory, then it's important for me to play here. That said, the other choice was to play here, which would start, it would stop white from making the territory on the bottom side, and it would be coming close to making a territory in the lower right. So here I'm going to show you a little Joseki, which happens when black gets this shape. It can happen with black pincering at 1 first, and then playing the pressing move here at 0-4. So the order of these two stones can be changed. Usually black starts with the kosumi and then pincers. But those two can be interchangeable also. So sometimes black starts with a pincer, and if white plays away, maybe black's going to play the kosumi. So the order of these 3 black stones, there are various orders with which you can get to this shape. That makes it a fairly common shape when people are playing the 3-4 point to start with. White plays an attachment and a double hane. So when white does this, if black plays this way, no, that's the way I'm supposed to play. But if black plays this way, then white will live in the corner. If black plays this way, there's some bad aji here. So there's some bad aji, for instance, just to show one variation, white can play here, threatening a ladder, so black has to play here. And white does get some forcing moves from the outside. So maybe this way, maybe this way. White does get some forcing moves here. And so it's a kind of a squeeze, which will give whites some opportunities to escape with this group on the right side. So that you might remember the right side, in the beginning it looked like a black territory. So white is invading the right side, although white did lose the corner. So it's a kind of a trade there. So this is how white was sort of planning to use it. I sort of whizzed through that. It's not really a main variation. It's just the idea is that when black cuts at 5 and takes at 7, there's all that bad aji with the attachment at p5. So that's how white would be using it. Okay, so white plays a double hane. So black's going to play here and actually is going to play here. Yes. And this white group is dead because if white plays here, black's going to play here. And white will not have room to make eyes. So like if white plays here, it's going to be like that. And white's dead in the corner. Actually, black's going to cut here. This is better. And then black can cover it like this. So that was the correct move. So white pushes through. And we get this move, which again is hoping for a squeeze. Again, black is hoping to squeeze like this and kill the corner. And white pushes through. So this kind of trade, again, if white plays here, it's a bit heavy. In this case, black would be attacking this white group fairly severely. So white just simply pushes through. And this was the computer-suggested variation, where white gets to escape out into the center. And black gets territory in the corner on the right side. So most of that was a Joseki. So like I'd say up to this point, if you know about black's move at 9, then you're okay with this Joseki. And you could probably improvise with the rest of it. So like if white plays here and here, black is going to connect. So the follow-up is relatively easy, provided you know to play at 9. That's sort of the key move. Okay, back to the game. I didn't do that, and I played a hane here. And so this could have been the losing move. I actually messed up here. I should have played a double hane. More than a misreading, it was actually a misjudgment, but it was so bad that it looked sort of like a misreading. So in this case, I would be building towards the center. And yes, so this part of it from 7 on was computer generated, and I don't really feel comfortable about this because it looks like it's going to die to me. But and I could show you the continuation, but it's not very. I'm still not happy about it, so I'll just leave it there. So I was slightly uncomfortable. That could have been why I sort of faltered when I was with this variation. I didn't continue correctly. But I did have to play. This was the important shape move, and it's interesting that It's actually pretty good aji. So like if white cuts here, and then cuts here, there's actually nothing coming from this, so it doesn't work for white, just locally. And so that means that for the time being, extending here is it's fairly important. And so again, when black pushes here, the shape move at L15 here is important enough that white's going to play there, and black has time to defend at 5. I would be more happy if I got to play at L15. Okay, to the game. This was just bad because when I play the double hane now, this is actually a very common shape where when black is in bad shape when white cuts here, because when I escape, white connects, and R15 and S13 are miai. So I had an idea, but it wasn't good. That was the problem. So I cut here, and so this is kind of my attempted response, the move that I had prepared, in that white has to answer from underneath. So if white answers anywhere else, this is going to be a ladder. Obviously, that's bad for white. So white has to answer underneath like this. If white answers from above, then I can break through here. And in this semi, like if you just count the liberties, they're about equal. So if we go like this, if we simply count the liberties, white is going to win by 1 move. So like if black simply plays here, and let's do it like this, you can see white's winning by 1 move. But in actual play, I have an opening here to escape once, and this will extend my liberties. So white has to capture a ladder. Because the stones on the outside here, these stones, have a shortage of liberties, white can't go crawling on the second line. So white has to answer with a ladder. And now I'm going to win by 1 move because I get to extend my liberties. And since the top side was probably going to be white territory anyway, I'm not losing anything with all these stones. Well, I'm losing something, but the loss that white has is bigger. So I'm going to win the race to capture here. All right. So that's the explanation of why white had to play from underneath. And now I'm sacrificing these stones, and I get to cut here. So when I cut here, white had 2 choices. So if white had played here, I probably would have played away. And in this case, so 4 is a huge move here. And in this case, I get to squeeze from the center. This still wouldn't have been good for me. But it was the other alternative for white, maybe about equal to the game. So in the game white played out here, you might say he was hoping for an exchange like this, in which he would get a big side. But of course, black has the Tetsuji here to play here. So this is, if white takes, this is just going to be a ladder. And yeah, so that would be a collapse for white. And so white has to take here. So I got a good shape on the outside with a ponnuki, and I got a squeeze. But the actual territorial loss here is something more than 30 points. So in this area that one might think it was going to be a black territory, the difference between that being a black territory and white capturing those black stones is somewhere in the vicinity of 30 points. I think it's less than 40. And so in this case, the capture on the outside, it's not really a ponuki actually, because there's this extra black stone here. And also the board isn't as wide open as it would usually be, which reduces the value of ponuki. Okay, so the white's ahead at this point. It's a good time for white to start doing something with the lower right corner. Okay, with this, I could have played the other way, but I'm not going to be able to kill it this time. So I'd probably play a thick move towards the center, and white would play here. So this would allow white to live in the corner. It would simplify things. And my line here surrounding the territory, it's incomplete. So that's why I wasn't satisfied with this variation. So in this variation, I'm taking the corner territory, forcing white to take the bottom side. So white's going to take the bottom side and gain some territory, but in the process, I get to build my wall in the center of the board. So I'm surrounding my center territory here, sacrificing a little bit by giving white territory on the bottom side, but it does make it easier for me to surround the center. And I have started by taking the corner territory here. So this territory is not insignificant. So my profit there. While I say that, white's going to take some back immediately. So we'll show that. Let's take a look at that. So at this point, white got to extend down. And since white is pretty much alive there, so like if I play like this, and let's just play elsewhere here, the exchange in the corner with S1 for black R1 has killed my corner group. So I'm going to be in trouble in this case, even just locally. But like, I guess I'm okay with that. But this is already a race to capture in which white has an advantage. So if I connect here, then white has 4 liberties and black has only 2. So to a great extent, white has an advantage. It's going to be an approach move ko. It's going to be bad for black anyway. Okay, I jumped ahead again. Okay, let's see. So I have to answer like this. So this is the correct answer. So white got some of the corner back, but so the main point is that I have efficiently made a wall towards the center. And white took the corner. So this was small. And this was the move that gave back most of white's lead. So if white had played here, white would still have been ahead. So this was an important move that reduced the center. And because of the fact that white can capture the stone here, or white can extend here to connect to the side, white's group in the lower right is already okay. It's not going to die, at least. So it was important for white to play this key point in the center of the board. And when white played Q2, I got to play here. So at this point, the game is fairly close. Okay, so I played here. And I'm not sure about, maybe I should have played here first, but it could have been a very similar variation. So I played here, white cut, and then I backed up. So these 2 points, they work well together. So like it's a good connection for me, a good shape, which also protects the line on the other side in the center. So it protects both this line and this line. So I've closed off the center while getting a connected shape towards the top side. So that's really important. So I've accomplished 2 important things. And this move probably would have accomplished the same thing. So if white backs off with something like this, in this case, maybe I'd go a bit further in. So starting with 1 was an option. Connecting here was something I didn't want to do, mainly because there's going to be a lot of bad aji. So like in a position like this, with a cut, starting with white L6, white could push through at L6 and cut in the center. I wasn't confident that I could capture this white group when white jumps in at 8. There's some maji on the left there also. So this would have been relatively dangerous for me. And I jumped in here. So this was the way we played it. And I have that connected shape towards the top side. It's a close game. And so, yes, so white plays here and played here. Karago didn't like this move. And apparently white was supposed to jump in here. The difference is pretty subtle. So yeah, it's pretty natural for white to play these forcing moves because this finishes the white territory here. So white has established the borderline to this white territory instead of reducing the black territory in the center a few points. So it would have been playing that move, it would have lost a lot of territory towards the bottom side. So locally, white does have that forcing move at h5. So if white wanted to, he could play here, and that would finish the territory like this. So I wouldn't play that exchange, but this would surround the territory, and white would have reduced the center a little bit. But of course, I would get an extra move for that. It would be gote for white. So there's pros and cons to playing this way. Okay, so white took the territory. He's under the impression that he's winning the game at this point. But actually, it is very close. This tournament, actually, it's a lightning tournament. We did have some time on the clock. I think we started with 1 hour each in the preliminaries. So this was the elimination tournament before TV. In the actual tournament, it's more like the NHK Cup with 30 seconds to start with and extra time segments. So like a minute each. Maybe about 10 time segments that we can use. So this is the board position that I was showing you in the beginning. And it's black's turn. Oh yes, I played this exchange. It's black's turn, and the question is, like, most of the board is filled up, and the upper left corner is left. So the question is, how do I play the end game in the upper left corner? And so again, if you want to think about it on your own, this is where you stop the video maybe and think about it for a bit. So in the game, I'll just go ahead and show you the game move. Black played here. So this was actually the decisive move. It wasn't the move that Karago seemed to want to play. And Karago was going to play here and win by half a point. So Karago was just going to play a relatively mundane endgame. And that exchange of 1 for 2 is probably pretty important. But being a human player, I wouldn't be so happy. I wouldn't be so relaxed with just a half point difference. So I'm happy I chose this move, which actually, after I played it, Katoko was agreeing that it's a bigger win, at least. So it was a decisive move. The idea is that if white backs off with something like this, then I get, well, I have various ways of connecting, but I get to connect. And this is a bigger dent in the white territory. So white's territory would be more like this, or maybe the kosumi. It would be a smaller territory in the corner, and it would be sente for me anyway. And so I would have a larger lead. So I didn't like the half point difference that Karago was showing me. And so white covered from this side, and I jumped into the corner. And so this is probably sort of difficult for some players to read out, but actually it's already pretty safe. I was pretty confident that I was alive here. So white played this move, and I played here, and white bumped against me. So at this point, if white had played here, I would not have room. Oh, let's go back a bit. Let's back up and talk about the 3-3 invasion. So some of you might have thought, why not invade at the 3-3 point? The problem is that white has a very solid position on the right, and when white plays here, black doesn't have room. So for instance, if black slides, white's going to take away the corner I, and that's just dead. If black plays here, this is not forcing, so white gets to take the eye away on this side, and there's no follow-up. So maybe not even a race to capture, I don't think. So it's really very hopeless. So 2 was the key point. And yeah, again, if black starts with this, it's the same story. White plays here, and there's nothing happening on the outside, really. So I start with this. So the idea is that in this case, I now have some extra room in the corner. and white took the one stone. So yes, here white bumped against me. If he had played here, the whole issue would be the potential connection in the center. So I would play here and connect, and I would push through. And although white can cut me off, white's going to fall apart, and I'm going to have an advantage. So this is just one example of how it might turn out. And white would be, I guess white would be doing stuff like this, for instance. And it would just be, the white group would be in big trouble. It would turn into a race to capture, but it would, but black actually has a slightly larger eye in the corner. It's probably not going to be a happy ending for white. And with 24, I'm gaining some territory in the meanwhile. So in some cases, I would be able to sacrifice this corner group if it was a co-exchange. I would get two moves elsewhere. Okay, so he bumped against, this is a ko also, so it's more natural for white to play the ko in which white doesn't die. So yes, if you don't know this one, you should look at my playlist about life and death. There's a life and death playlist that has about 600 problems. Well, the life and death is maybe 300 problems or something like that. So that's plenty of problems for you to do. And you will find something like this. The outside shape, of course, is different, but you will find this shape as one of the problems. It's one of the basic life and death shapes. So it's a ko. All right. And a lot of white's ko threats are going to be towards my center territory. And like punching a hole in this territory is actually pretty big. So this would not be as good as the game variation. Like having a hole in my territory, in some cases, it's going to be more important than my life in the upper left corner. So this territory I have in the center is big enough that I want to answer most of white's ko threats. But he's going to run out. So let's just continue. And the same can be, this was also sort of borderline, but it's more prudent for me to answer this. And I have a ko threat here because, he has to play something in the corner. I expected this, but the difference between this move, which would also be a direct ko, and this move, it's pretty subtle. And this was also a big ko threat. If I play here, I'm going to be alive in the corner. But he's going to capture. Yeah, I better play this. I better play this before it's too late. Oh well, yeah, I could have played it later. But he's going to win the semi. This was more than 20 points. It's pretty big. So I answered that one too. And when I die in the upper left corner, I'm going to get 2 moves in a row. So that's why it's okay for me to answer all these ko threats. And the final ko threat here, it's a bit painful because it puts white in damezumari. And I push through. Yeah, so I get to erase the lower side. And this was a trade that pretty much finished the game. We're in the end game now. The fact that my stones have a big eye there in the corner, it means that white has to be a bit careful here. And he has to capture this stone. So that's, yeah. So I got this endgame sequence with Sente. And now I'm just continuing here. Now I'm not so sure about the ko there. It's about 10 points if I win the ko. But it's probably more important for me to finish the bottom side like I did. And again, I could have played the ko now. But white's going to be able to play ko threats like this. This is a forcing endgame move, sort of. And then he's going to have maybe he's going to have some ko threats here. It would complicate the game. And maybe I could win the ko, but at 10 points, instead of the 10-point ko, which would cost me 2 moves, I took this was the Sente 3-point for white. So it's a Sente 3-point move for white. And at this point, I had calculated the result. So to a fairly, well, with fair accuracy. So I'd calculated to the point that I knew I didn't have to win the ko. Okay, so we're finishing the game now. And it's about it. So this was, let's see, this was the final big point. If white had played there, I would have ended up putting a stone in at t12. So that was theoretically it's a 4-point difference. And now we're just playing small moves. When you have a complicated fight like that, well, also the fact that this was a big territorial game, so I took a big center, so it simplified the endgame. And we're finished now. Yes. And I haven't prepared a text result for you, but it was 5.5 points for black. So just to recap, the key point of the game was this board position, where I found a good move in the upper left. So if I'd played something like this or something like this, it would have been extremely close. And Katago tells me that if I start with this and then I play this one is a 0.5-point win for me. So I suppose it's right, but I wouldn't. My winning percentage went up from my viewpoint, and eventually Katago's viewpoint also. My winning percentage went up when I found this move. And as I said, I'd been thinking of this from quite early in the game. So even when white played this shape in the upper left corner and played here, I was already aware of the fact that this is probably going to die in any case. So again, the fact that white played these moves here, this has reinforced white's weaknesses on the left side, on the left side, yeah. So because of that, I don't have much hope of getting Aji after I've played at 5 and I try to break through there. It's not going to work because of these stones that white has on the left side of the board. So that's what he was doing with it. And so from the start, I wasn't thinking of invading the 3-3 point. So I was already thinking of playing here. But if black does this too early, then the exchange of this stone for this stone can be good for white. So like white can play here, or later on in the game. So say something like this happens, I've reduced the corner, but it's not decisive. It's not big enough to be doing it right now. So the timing of playing at 1 is very important. White would not play at 2 and 4 yet, but it would come fairly soon. And so I was waiting until an opportune time to do it. So anytime after I play this important point in center here. So this was an important point. After this, the issue of the potential invasion of the top left corner became really important. And I found a point in the endgame, the perfect time to do it. So the timing of this move was maybe more important than I think any professional player would find this move. But the timing was important here. And the fact that it was decisive in this game was what made it special for me. So thank you for watching. And I'll be back with more. See you next time. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.